I'm 96 years old, and my children signed the papers to move me into a nursing home before they ever asked me if I was ready to leave my own house. My name is Ruth Callahan. I found out by mistake. The folder was on the kitchen counter, half covered by a dish towel, as if that made it less real. My name was written across the top in my son's handwriting. There was a date circled in blue ink, 2 weeks from now. I stood there for a long time, one hand pressed against the counter to steady myself, reading the word admission beside my name. That is how you discover your life is being rearranged, not through a conversation, through paperwork. They didn't mean to hurt me. I know that, or at least I believe that. They meant to protect me, to get ahead of what they fear is coming. But when you are 96 years old, and you see your own name on a form that suggests you are no longer safe in the house you built your life in, something inside you shifts. You realize you are no longer the decision maker. You are the decision. I am telling you this because I do not have much time left to tell it, and because I have spent most of my life managing things quietly, and I do not want to manage this quietly too. I have lived in this house for 53 years. My husband Walter and I bought it when our son was 5 and our daughter was 3. It was smaller then, or maybe we were larger. We painted the living room ourselves. I remember standing on a ladder, arguing gently with Walter about the shade of cream for the walls. He said it looked the same as the old one. I insisted it didn't. We laughed about that for years. Walter worked nights at the steel plant. I worked mornings at an insurance office until the children were old enough to stay home after school. Our days overlapped like that for decades. We met in the kitchen at odd hours, trading updates. Tom has a spelling test. Linda needs money for a field trip. We'll handle it. That was our phrase. We'll handle it. Handling things became our language for love. I woke before dawn to pack lunches. I ironed shirts in the evening while the news hummed in the background. I balanced the checkbook every Sunday night at this same kitchen table. I believed if everything ran smoothly, if nothing fell apart, then I was doing my job as a mother and a wife. I did not think much about sitting still. Tom once asked me to watch him build a model train set in the basement. I told him I would, after I finished sorting the laundry. By the time I went downstairs, he had already finished the track. "It's okay, Mom," he said. He said that often. Linda used to stand in the doorway while I cooked and tell me about her day. I listened, but I kept stirring the pot, glancing at the clock. I thought there would always be more evenings, more chances, more time. That is how most mistakes are made, not with bad intentions, with assumptions. When Walter retired, we thought we would finally slow down. We talked about visiting the coast, about sitting on the porch in the evenings without worrying about the alarm clock. We did some of that, but not enough. 3 years into his retirement, he had a stroke. One minute he was reading the paper at the table. The next he was on the floor, unable to form words. I handled it. I called the ambulance. I gathered his medication list. I phoned the children with steady voice. Hospitals became our routine. I learned how to read medical charts. I slept in a chair beside his bed. When he died, it was quiet. His hand grew lighter in mine. After the funeral, the house was full for a week. Then it emptied. Silence returned. And I told everyone I was fine. That word again, fine. I drove myself to the grocery store. I kept the yard neat by hiring a neighbor's son to mow the lawn. I paid the bills on time. I did not want to be a burden. I had spent my life being the one others leaned on. The thought of leaning frightened me more than loneliness. 2 winters ago, I slipped on ice in the driveway. I fell hard enough to see stars for a moment. I sat there in the cold, breathing slowly until I could pull myself up. I did not call Tom or Linda. When Linda noticed the bruise on my arm days later, I told her I had bumped into a cabinet. She didn't believe me, but she didn't press. Last year, I forgot to pay the electric bill. The lights went out one Tuesday evening. I thought it was a storm. There was no storm. Tom found the unopened envelope on the counter. "Mom, you can't let this happen," he said gently. I laughed. Just a small oversight. But I saw something in his eyes. Concern. Not the casual kind, the heavy kind. Then came the oven. I left it on overnight. I don't remember turning it on. Linda arrived the next morning and smelled gas before she even reached the kitchen. She didn't yell. She held my shoulders and said, "Mom, this isn't safe." Safe. That word has been following me ever since. After that, they began to check more closely. Tom installed a small camera near the front door. Linda organized my medications into a plastic box labeled by day and time. They spoke softly around me. They exchanged looks. And then, last month, I found the folder. They had toured a facility nearby. They had asked about availability. They had chosen a room with a window overlooking a small courtyard. They had written my name on the forms. Eleanor Callahan, 96, emergency contact, Thomas Callahan. Reading it felt like reading my own obituary in advance. The turning point, if I am honest, came earlier. It was at a family dinner. My granddaughter was telling a story. I watched her mouth move. I knew her face, her laugh. Her name would not come. I avoided saying it. Later that night, Tom asked quietly, "Mom, are you feeling all right?" I said yes. I always say yes. But that day I knew something had shifted. Memory is not dramatic when it leaves. It erodes, slowly, silently. What cannot be fixed is simple. Walter is gone. The years when my children needed my steady hands are gone. The authority I once carried in this house is thinned, and time does not give refunds. I do not blame my children. They are afraid. Afraid of a phone call in the night. Afraid of finding me on the kitchen floor. Afraid of regret. I understand that fear. I lived with it when they were young and late coming home. If you are listening to me and you still have years ahead, I will not tell you to abandon your work or change your life entirely. I will only tell you this. When someone asks you to sit with them for a moment, sit. When you notice yourself saying later, pause. Later is not guaranteed. I built a life around duty. It was not a bad life. It was stable, respectable. But sometimes I chose responsibility over presence. And now my children are choosing responsibility over my pride. I have not confronted them yet. Part of me wants to protect them from embarrassment. Part of me wants to sit them down and say, I am still here, include me. Because that is what hurts most, not the nursing home itself, the secrecy, the feeling of being arranged. I do not know what we will decide. Perhaps I will move. Perhaps it will be safer. Perhaps I will learn the sound of new hallways and memorize a different window view. If I go, I will take Walter's photograph. I will take the small wooden box of birthday cards. I will take the recipe book with my handwritten notes in the margins. I will leave behind the scratch on the cabinet from Tom's toy truck. I will leave behind the porch where Linda once sat braiding her hair. Houses remember us, even when we begin to forget ourselves. I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid of disappearing before I do. I want at the very least to sit at this table and speak openly with my children, to choose together, to be part of the conversation about my own ending. My name is Ruth Callahan. I am 96 years old, and I am learning that strength at the end is not about handling everything alone. It is about allowing others to handle it with you. There is not much time left. I feel that in my bones. But there is still enough time to speak honestly. Tonight, I will fold the papers neatly and place them back in the folder. I will sit in my chair and listen to this house breathe around me. And soon, I will say to my children calmly, let's talk. Because even now, even at 96, I want to remain part of my own story. Not managed, not scheduled, present.